It looks like it's going to connect this time. Yay! Hot doggity doo-dah! Good morning! And welcome back. Welcome back to Who Am I? Who Am I? A little show out in the field. Insignificant and meaningless, for sure. And yet powerful and collective and meaningful, all at the same time. How interesting. It's just like life. Who Am I? It's a show where we're going to talk about what I think is the missing piece to who we are collectively. Now, individually, different individuals of us figure out this question. Actually, it's an ongoing question. Ongoing question, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, who am I is a valid question to keep asking. It's the missing, the question and the answer is the missing piece. And I'm not saying I know the answer. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying I know and you don't. I'm saying all of the problems that humanity faces are the design of the universe is so cool. It is up to the task of answering every one of those problems. The problems have solutions. Every one of them does. And the way you find the solution is you believe in the solution. You look to the solution. You reach for the solution. You don't keep grinding away in the problem. Now, the world and humanity and the United States right now are faced with a really tricky moment in time. There's all of the things that we have believed to be true and solid about who we are and about the nature of government and politics itself and defense and what is our mission? Who are we? What the hell are we doing? What is the method by which we try to impose what we believe is order upon ourselves or the rest of the world? All of this, all of it, it all points back to the question, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And how does this bloody setup work? How does it work? And how are we going to make it work for us? The show started because I was spending a lot of time early in the wee hours of the early morning, laying in my bed with my eyes closed, listening to a voice that was talking to me, just talking to me. And it seemed like this voice was me and yet not me. There was me added in there. I was threads of it. I could feel it. But it seemed bigger, and it spoke of big meaning, large understanding, collective comprehension, whispering in my ear, who am I? Who am I? And so I started getting up early, wee hours of the morning, and practicing putting this voice, this inner voice, out in action, out in the field of action. Give her a platform, listen to her. She's got all kinds of things to say. I want to listen to her. She's both me and not me. It's like me. I'm channeling me. Everybody can do it. Let's do it. I want to watch you do it too. I don't want everybody just to watch me do it. I want to watch you do it, and let's put all this together and let's be wise. Let's be wise with one another. Let's be kind with one another. Even unto the murderers and thieves and whatnot, the ne'er-do-wells, the rascally ne'er-do-wells amongst us. Understand that we are a collective being. And the we that we are collectively being is a direct reflection of who we think we are. And then, actually, it's such a complex mix of things. Human beings are a really, really interesting species. And I like to study human beings. And it's interesting to study from this vantage point because you can look at us from the inside out. And isn't that interesting? And watch what we're getting ready to experience here, what's getting ready to wash over us. And, there's been waves of this all over the world for the last 100 years, 200 years, or however. It depends on what I'm thinking about and to what I'm talking about it playing out. What I was thinking about was the phases and waves of history, the vibrational repetition of the pattern of, say, authoritarian psychosis. I think the pattern of there's some pattern that runs 80 years, and it has something to do with the length of time that it takes a full generation that remembers, physically remembers, viscerally remembers the truth of certain experiences for them to die. And then the next generation is in a state of forgetting and lets it play out again. The authoritarian comes back into play. You've made your monuments and you've got your memorials, you've got your Yad Vashem and stuff, all the things that you try to put into place so that people will remember past the generations who actually lived it. But then, you got to watch out some of this stuff too, because some people in their focusing on what happened last century and then focusing right now on the parallels. Parallels as in... Actually, let's just, I jumped right into this and I've got my own thoughts going on in my own brain and I'm channeling stuff out, and I realize that the audience may or may not have any idea of where it is I started. And so maybe I should start back at the beginning. Although if you're a fan of the Who Am I show, and if you are, you're a very elite nugget of the population. You'll know that I tend to... Hold on, I got a cough, and I can pause this for... That was good. I think that did it. You'll know that this show is about who am I in reference to source energy, who am I in reference to the allness, and so it makes sense that... This morning, I sort of jumped in the who am I question right in the place of who are we as humanity here on planet Earth, and I was thinking about the political difficulties, you might say, that we are experiencing here in America. Our government isn't working the way it has been working up until now, because actually mostly up until now, what has held it together has been goodwill, common agreement, just people agreeing. This is when civility, sort of a common view of who we are, and there's a split you can feel now. People aren't agreeing on what the object of the exercise is anymore. They are not, and the order of our government, how we make laws and whether people obey them or not. And this whole thing with, perhaps the main, the biggest, the main billionaire on planet Earth now having full access, perhaps, to data systems that he has no business having access to. And actually, I don't want to slide into anything specific, but we're having issues. We're having issues, and we feel paralyzed in a way. We have 50% one way and 50% the other way, and we've locked ourselves against each other, and then we handed a little bit more than just half of the power to the other side. And now they can do whatever they want to without any checks and balances. They're acting like it's like some sort of mandate. And depending on what they do to our systems, we could talk about this in specifics, and I could go into some bit of specificity of it that is my specialization, because specialization and specificity is what each individual human being is all about. So what is my specificity and specialization? Me, as the host of Who Am I? I'll tell you what my specificity and specialization is. It's generalities. I'm a general. I go to the general. I pull back to the general, and I'm looking at generally, who are we? Where are we going? What's the object of the exercise? How are we designed? Just generally, who are we? Who am I? Who are we? What is our design? What is the nature of the field of reality that we are engaged with it? Because the field of reality lays the rules. And so what are the rules? That's part of the question too. Who am I? It's part of the equation is, how does the matrix work? How does the field, the grid, the board play? And you kind of have to learn that first. But most of us don't learn that first. Most of us just kind of get thrown into life, and we live it for a while, and we burn our hands on the stove, and then, depending on what kind of experience we have, maybe we were drawn to mystically evaluatize. That's a word I just made up. I like that. Evaluatize the field of information that we have been privy to in order to understand, what the F am I looking at, and how does this work? Scratch my head. And so then I am moved and inspired to come into the studio and do this show. I don't know why. It's the voice in my head wants a platform to speak, and she just speaks gently. We're just talking about our general nature. It is my specificity to be the general. And I know that often generalities are frowned on, totally frowned on. Generalizing, even positive generalizations are seen as stereotypical. And I actually don't mean what I'm saying in a stereotypical way. I don't mean to generalize other than just, we're talking about, people generalize all the time. And an anatomist who is talking about the anatomy of human beings is talking in general. Every specific human being has a specific, traits of diversity. But in general, who are we? And what is the object of the exercise? We are here. Who are we? Well, that's a good question. That's a really, really, really good question. And what's the object of the exercise? Another really good question. And actually, you kind of have to leave the questions unanswered, although you explore the answers. I believe that we are source energy. We are source energy. And what does that mean? We are extensions of source energy. We are all extensions of source energy. Because as source energy goes from being stochastic vacuum fluctuations canceling one another out to the positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, and nothing really happening, if there's an area in the field where it starts to become coherent, they start to spin together, and they start to pattern together and motion together, what it looks like is matter. And when it cancels to the random effect, it looks like space. But the whole thing is a single plasmic field, cosmic plasmic field of connected plonks, all touching one another, all independently fluctuating in and out of existence, and either spinning in coherence with their neighbors or fluctuating randomly, depending on how you are this field. So when you understand the rules of the field, then you start understanding the rules of your own life and what your positive and negative emotions actually mean from your bigger perspective. Your negative emotions don't mean nothing to you as a larger being. You don't really like seeing your beloved small aspect of yourself suffering in negative emotion, and would love, you as your larger self, would love to help your smaller self understand who you are. And it's not just that every time you feel a negative emotion, you're wrong. You know, sometimes people interpret the meaning of your two selves in that way. You know, what do I mean by that? Well, you're a vibrational self. And you are vibrational, and the greater part of you is source energy connected to all things. Your larger vibrational self is actually who you are more than the little self that it appears that you are mostly. How does Abraham put all of this? You're vibrational beings in a vibrational universe, and you were source energy before you came into these physical bodies, and the larger part of you still is source energy and is vibrationally connected to all things, and is not concerned about the little things that you are concerned about in the way that you are concerned about them. Now, your greater self would love to see peace and harmony, and so does not like to see murder and rape and pillage and suffering, doesn't like to see that, but is incapable of looking at it from a negative perspective, can only see the possibility and what is really there and what you could do with that and how it's moving with everything else. This is what your source energy self is absolutely consumed with at all times. And why wouldn't she be? It is the fullness of all that is what she's looking at. Where you are, all the places you could go, what everybody else is doing, how it's all moving. That's what your source side is looking at. You are looking at your specific life, and you are actually part of source's eyes on the ground, light on your area of the grid. And what it is that we are all in this together, and what's really happening, the meaning of the experience, is the love aspect of it. The love aspect is what gives all of its meaning. As we who are love, we are these frequencies of the ones that feel really good. Those are the frequencies that we are. And the ones that feel really bad are the frequencies that we create when in our individual thinking minds we think thoughts that run straight contrary to, right against the beating flow of this stream that's going the other direction. And when you take thoughts that go cross to it, oh my God, life beats you up, and it feels so bad. It feels so lonely. It feels so lost. It feels so meaningless and empty and mean. and terrifying. That's what it feels like when you're flowing the wrong direction. And it's your inner being trying to tell you that. And the only reason that you're not listening is because you weren't trained to care more about how you feel than anything else, and to disregard conditions if the two come up against one another. Go with the feeling. Don't go with the condition. Don't go with your thinking mind's evaluation of the condition anyway. You still are, when you go with the feelings that your inner being is trying to lead you with, you're not going against the real physicality of what's going on in the real physical world around you. Your inner being knows. Your inner being knows physically what's going on and what you care about in it. What you love about it, what is fun to you, what is playful to you, what is joyful to you, what is meaningful to you. Your inner being knows all of that, as well as exactly where all the stones are placed, you know. That was sort of to illustrate. She knows both the flow and the meaning, the feeling of the movement and what you care about. We are really cool creatures, people. And if we would learn to work our individual specific equipment and then relate the meaning of what we're doing in our little specific lives back up to the greater whole that we are and add the whole thing in together, we'd be brilliant. We'd be brilliant together. Would be brilliant when we got together and created anything, whether it was a transportation system or a communication system or a currency system or a system of governments, why we come together as governments and what we leave the F out of it, how we understand whether our leaders are something we want to elect or whether they're out of alignment. We need to, we as a people need to understand the concept of alignment. What is alignment? Well, first of all, you are a binary creature. Your system is a binary setup. And it's comprised of two main components. One is you and your physical body with your physical brain and your physical skull, walking your physical life in your HBV, your meat suit. HBV stands for human being vehicle. It's the physical, Earth rover meat suit. There's that part of you, but there is another aspect of you. It's a bigger aspect. People talk about, it feels like we live in a simulation because it seems like there is guidance above and then there's ourself down here below. But you know who's guiding us? We are. Do you know who we are? Everybody. Do you know who everybody is? God. We are that. There is one of us. There is only one of us here. And and it's a question of identification. When you can feel that within the structure of your own consciousness, when you can go to a place and go, oh yeah, I see where that's true. And then the equation works the way that you don't get all grandiose and full of delusions is you have to recognize that in the equations that everybody else is too. We're all this. And collectively, and we don't have to force it. We don't have to go out into the street and get everybody to agree on it because we already are this. We can just take advantage of how it works. And quit fighting each other, quit pushing back, realize that for once and for all, whatever it is that we create on the planet is going to be used by other human beings, and you're not going to be able to dictate which human beings down the road that get to use this system that we put into place. Oh, it's only going to be my children because I own it. This paper says so. No, we are creating, this is us. This is us. And all of the illustrations of shit that we're getting right now are illustrations just to show us how it works. How it works. When we create things that are not in alignment with the reality of the world and the truth of how we are designed, what we need as our systems structures to pull us through existence as human beings. And it's not just as human beings amongst human beings, because human beings also have to interact and interrelate and interplay with, in harmony with the rest of the biofield. And we're not doing it right now. We're eating through the biofield. As Bruce Lipton points out, unless we pull it into line, we would need 1.6 planets. Now, he might have been saying this years ago. I don't know how up to date his information is. The general-ish is that we're in the midst of 6th mass extinction, and we've got issues on planet Earth that we need to deal with. We're causing flowing systems of circulation and temperature and cycles of things to get off in the way that we are unbalancing Mother Earth, Mother Gaia, Mother Eden, Planet Eden. However you want to say this, we are messing with it. But the answer is to get into alignment and then follow the same things that we want from our position of alignment. We will line it up with the harmonies of the planet itself. We can do this, We need to just get straight about what are the laws of the universe, what are our needs, what are the steps of creation, who are we? Who else are we playing with in this? Are there other beings out there who can help us? All of these good questions, and I have no idea what the answers are. I'm just starting to learn to voice the questions from within my heart and soul, regardless of what my outside surface self might fear about how I might get in trouble by letting my inner voice out. I think we're moving into a time of life of existence where, depending on how you play it, we are in a way free to be whoever we are. And honestly, probably more than any time in history has ever been. And just because laws change does not mean that people are not free. What we're free to do, which is what we should have always learned how to do, we are always free to follow, we're always free to get into alignment between the two selves that we are. And then from that position, follow any impulses that come. Any impulses that come. Now, how that turns out and how other people react to you doing that at any given time in history, that changes. And we might be shifting from a moment of the Weimar Republic is shifting into the stricter Nazi regime, or it's trying to. I don't think it's going to get there because it is not 1933, and Americans are not Germans traumatized after World War I, oppressed by the rest of the world, made to eat it, made to choke on the guilt and shame and blame of World War One by the rest of the world. You're to blame, you're to blame, we're fine, we're fine. We're going to go off and do liberal democracy and let everybody just be whatever. And then it's a different time. It is a different time. So people freaking out about the samenesses in the authoritarian takeover, be heartened by the differences, even as you are alarmed by the samenesses. Or aware of the samenesses and alarmed in the sense of, oh, hair's going up on the back of my neck. You don't necessarily have to assume that it's going to play out full Hitler regime, but you gotta watch this moment, because this is the moment where it happens. Right here, this is where it happens, if it happens. But I don't think it's going to happen, because the United States is like the world's democracy. It has been the democracy of the world, the biggest one, the biggest empire of friendly, good-natured, free Weimar Republic level. Not everybody, and people have different connotations when they think of the Weimar Republic too. But it was a very liberal democracy, and there was, everybody was letting their freak flag and their groove thing fly, you know. That's the part I was thinking about. I was thinking about a spirit of it that seemed very friendly and playful and free. Well, we've been doing that for quite a while. The United States is definitely not traumatized in the same way that Germany was. We've been king of the roost for these 80 years since we won that last war. And we've been the empire that's been calling the shots. And when we fall into some sort of psychosis, authoritarian psychosis, the whole world picks up its ears and goes, what? You know? Because this is the great experiment falling amiss. Well, it doesn't necessarily need to be considered a failed experiment, you know. As Abraham says, you never get it wrong because you never get it done. We're not done. That was a great start, but, you know, we put into place this thing that our founding fathers put into place. And we have barely touched it since then. As a matter of fact, it's really tricky going in and changing any of the amendments or the Constitution or anything. You don't really want to do that on the spirit of the day, especially if today's spirit is very authoritative. If we got an authoritarian spirit going on, then you have a council that goes in and changes the rules that say, all right, we're going to give all the power to the guy at the top and change the rules so that you can never change the rules, you know, or something like that. And this great thing that we put into place 250 years ago, it's been working because we agreed that it would work. And now we've got a party who has come into power with a fool at the top and all of his oligarchs, all of his court of whatever, and they're raiding the place. They are raiding this wholeness that we agreed on, this structure that we have been building for the last 250 years, this organizational structure of how we work with our problems, how we help people, how we collect data, how we disseminate information, how we come up with, how we collectively gather and teach one another the things that we have learned. That's like our colleges and stuff, and then our laboratories where we go in and we postulate questions, and then in the laboratories we come up with answers. And how do we decide who gets to ask the questions in which laboratories that are paid for by which money? Well, that's a process of grant allocating anyway, it's a vast system of this that is kind of running chaotically at the moment. Things are turning sideways. I'm not sure what's going on with the weather on the one hand and what's going on with weather prediction on the other hand, because sometimes I look at a weather site that I'm, the Weather Channel or whatever, and my husband looks at something completely else, some other source, and the difference is so huge, that I'm just wondering if people over at some of these locations aren't just making shit up, and just posting numbers, but the satellites aren't working. There's no connection to any real data flow or information. I don't know. It's a funny moment in time, people. We have been counting on government systems to do certain things. Now, I think that they should do certain things, but we should really get together and decide what our government is. Our government is us speaking collectively. And I think the only things that it should be doing are things that are there would be collective projects that we desire, that we have a big enough desire to. This is where it comes in. This is where the problem happens. This is where we don't know who we are, because if you say that, if collectively we come together in big enough things, we agree on, we want to do these things, and we have this impetus to get together and do things, the problem is this impetus. We got to understand what the impetus is, because so far it is easier to motivate us through collective fear than it is collective pure desire. And so get us afraid of something and then goad us into action, and we'll act and we'll create and we'll move. The problem is that from that impetus, from that position, you're facing backwards. You're not doing your best work. We need to be acting from our desire, from our pure desire, the pure desire of what we all really want. And what would that be? Do we even know what that is? Well, I can tell you what it is in purity, in clarity, in generality. The problem comes when our thinking brains start translating that into, well, what does that mean in physicality? All of a sudden, my desire for freedom, instead of being satisfied by my understanding my own nature and my ultimate freedom, and then from that position now pursuing what my whole self truly wants, I might pop off and my thinking brain goes, my desire for freedom equals I have to have a Lamborghini. Come hell or high water, and I don't care whose toes I step on to get there. You see how that just devolved into the wrong place? When all you were following was your desire. So you could argue with me about whether or not, it really is a question of following desire. But it is. It's our thinking brains and how they translate the desire that can sully the waters. So let's look at, what do we want? Freedom, beauty, abundance, health, play, fun, possibility, to see possibility. It's a beautiful thing to look forward in your glance and see all kinds of different things that you could work with and all kinds of directions that you could go in fun, in whatever. That's so that motion. We want that motion. We want meaningful work. We want to feel like we belong to our people. We want to know who we are. I believe it's one of the biggest impulsive drives that humanity has. This impulse to be whole, to our own wholeness. And where you find that wholeness, look to your own life for your own wholeness. And what you're going to have to add back in is go back in and everything that you ever loved, and then from loved to hated, you have to switch it back to the love, because the hate is not who you are. And that person that you used to love that now you hate, you're going to have to work that out, because that's actually a problem that's happening between you and you. The you and you, big you, little you, micro you, macro you. Your macro you is your vibrational greater self, the one that is in touch with all of the rest of the universe, the one that knows, the one that is interface. It's there. You have an interface to God that is. It's this vibrational information set that you're getting, and how well you are lining up your two selves is going to determine your energy state, the amount of energy that the universe is going to start flowing to you. The more of that data stream you can handle, the more that the universe is going to flow through you. It's all very interesting. So interesting. I may sneak over to the other side just to see whether by any miracle I have got anybody. Oh, I do have somebody. Is that you? Is that you, my friend, or is that somebody else? Actually, I'm going to go back to my studio, and so that if you answer me, I don't freak out. It knocks me off my game. What I'm really doing, I am channeling. But I am channeling my own inner being. So I sometimes it goes well and sometimes it doesn't go so well. But I do it all under the heading of the name of my show, Who Am I? Who am I? And it's a valid question for all of us. Who am I? What's the object of the exercise? Earlier on, I did pointed out the things that we need to put together, and I can run through them as a list real quick. The things I said was the things that we need physically to keep ourselves alive. We need to keep our eyes on those. Those things are air, water, sleep, food, shelter or a sheltering environment, relationship, and expression. Those are the 7 things that you need to keep flowing. The 5 basic laws of the universe, the grounding basic state of the universe. You exist. Everything is here and now. The all are one, the one is all. What you put out is what you get back. And physically, everything changes, except the laws. The laws don't change. And then you have the steps of creation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Step 1, life causes you to ask. Step 2, vibrationally, source answers you. Now you have to do step 3. You have to allow that to happen. You have to allow that answer to flow through you. You have to get into alignment with the answer that Source just gave you. You got to go find it, because you're on the other end of the stick right now. You're on the end that asked. And you got to go find the implicate positive to the asking. So you step 1, 2, 3, you get good at step 3 is you allow it. Step 4, you get good at step 3. Step 5 is you're back in step 1. Life's causing another contrasting moment, but you're not mad this time. You're not mad at yourself because you understand how it works. And you understand that step 1 thing had to happen. You had to have something that clarified that you wanted more than you had, or the universe would not expand. This is the evolution of all species. This is the expansion of all things that we are all flowing with. There's a larger field of this pattern of expansion and information that we are all a part of. That when we get more consciously understanding who we are and how this works, that our lives are going to get a lot easier as we let go of the oars and flow downstream in the direction of what we want. For instance, having a general system that of distribution, a general single system of distribution and a single way to interface with it. And then all of that is good. Now, what we do with that and how we flow the flow of blessings that come from that towards a single individual instead of allowing it to flow out to more individuals, we could work on that. But I call it Accio magic, being able to go to Amazon, or actually you don't have to just go to Amazon, but Amazon is great because the way its distribution system is working, there's a whole lot of shit that's stored, within 24 hours distance of where I am, so it's actually pretty cool. But how do we turn these systems so that they benefit all of us, so that all of us eat, so that all of us are sheltered, so that all of us get health care, so that all of us have access to ideas and entertainments and parks and food, all the things that we need. We are one being on this planet, people. Now, you can act selfishly for your own self, but once you go, anything that you created is going to be used by just other human beings. And wouldn't it be great if the systems that you created benefited all of humanity, all human beings? Like the transportation systems, so that maybe they have levels of care, levels of, I don't know. What I do know is that in every field of endeavor, every human being doing any task that has anything to do with any of us, which is most of us, whether you're in the healthcare industry or education or transportation or communications or whatever, every one of those things implies other human beings that are, you're educating other human beings, you're communicating with other human beings, you're transporting either goods to human beings or human beings to other locations. It's all us. We are one, people. And you don't have to fight about that. You don't have to, although it seems like we have to. We're one. Come on. Quit trying to cut everybody else out. But actually, our success is not predicated on us forcing anybody else to understand something they don't understand or do something different than what they're doing. That's not how you have to focus. You focus on your own alignment and you're following your own clear impulses as your two beings line up. And from that position, from doing that, you start inspiring other people to realize what the game is. Oh, the game is alignment. Oh, I thought the game was trying to force other people to, mind their P's and Q's or pay attention to me or, serve me. I thought that's what the game was. No. The game is get into alignment. And then from that clear place, flow downstream. Path of least resistance. Let go of the oars. Allow it to be okay. People, quit being so fascinated with the drama. Quit jacking yourself up on the drama of the negative emotion. Understand what your negative emotion is, and let's all get in touch with our greater self. Our greater selves are actually all the same self, with a very slight but important difference. My greater self is anchored where I'm standing, and your greater self is anchored where you're standing. And so my greater self knows exactly what I like, what I love, what turns me on, what lights me up inside, what thrills me to the bone. And so from that position, that's what I should be looking for. That's what I should be looking for. And as I do that, I am following my divine path. Your divine path is not to deny your desires, but to find them in clarity. In clarity, and to translate them in physicality, in resonance with who you're loving, connected, wise, kind, beautiful inner self really is. Your inner self is all the frequencies that we like best. That's who your inner being really is. And that's how come every time you meet an experience that, or you're actually, what happens when you feel those feelings, it's not, you can do it this way. You can behold things on the outside, a beautiful natural vista, sunset over the ocean at idyllic, seagulls crying, and, the harmony of nature can make you feel the harmony of your inner being. It's true. And when you observe that, you can feel that vibrational frequency and you go, oh, that's so beautiful. So you can witness conditions that can throw you this way. But the fact is that your inner being looks at all of reality and all of creation and feels this way. So that's who you really are, is those feelings. Then there is no bit of, so what's your job? Who are you? Who are you? I've kind of gotten onto an esoteric thing. How does this translate into, how do I make sense of my own sadness? Well, you're having sadness because you are two beings. And the little one of you is trying to lead the way with your thoughts. And you're thinking small thoughts, and you're thinking limiting thoughts, and limited thoughts that are flowing directly against the vibrational frequencies of your greater self. And it feels terrible when you do it. It's like worse than rubbing the cat the wrong way, or fingernails on a chalkboard, or it's like trying to, what are those little blow up inflatable rafts? Maybe you got a raft like that with a motor, a good motor, an Evinrude, dual, whatever. But you are in a really strong current of a river, and you're taking that little raft and you're trying to row upstream. Actually, you don't have an engine. You're trying to row with your hands. Row, 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 row. And it's beating you up because you're doing it that way. When in actual fact, we could all just quickly flow directly downstream, exactly to everything we want. I know exactly what Abraham is talking about. This exercise of coming into my studio for an hour every day and doing this little exercise of channeling my inner being, my two beings together, is bringing me to the same realizations of what Abraham tells her all the time. You know, this is the truth of our existence, people. This is who we are, and this is how we're going to fix our world. Not by insisting that other people do something different than what they are doing. The way we fix the world is do the only thing that you have any control over. Line your two selves up. Get into alignment between your smaller and your larger self. The religious people would be saying, get in touch with God. Get in touch with God. Find your Savior. Whatever it is that the missing link of the crazy people on the other side? It seems weird, but that is what it is. But what it is it's you. It's your nature. It's your vibrational dual nature. You are getting downloads. You're getting vibrational information from an overview self that you may or may not be listening to. She's coming through at a very, very high frequency. And when you get into the state of allowing that frequency to hit your solar plexus, to hit your I don't know what it's hitting. It's hitting you when you tune into it, then you realize, oh, it's love. It's all seeing. It's all knowing. But it's also you. But don't get grandiose about it. It's me too. It's you. It's me. It's them. It's everybody. It's the cat. It's all of us. We are all in this together. And you can't subtract any of us. Politically, every one of us is here for reasons of perfection, because we collectively all need to understand psychologically how this works. We need to understand our own psychological nature. We need to understand the psychological nature of our neighbors. Our neighbor is our unknown self made visible. And we are all like a schizophrenic being who has, shattered into a jillion different personalities. But ultimately, we are all one. And on this planet, we'd better learn to move more collectively. Now, what does all this mean? I mean all this in spirit. We need to understand in spirit that we are one. And then in our physicality, each diverse and individual place on the grid from their alignment needs to call their own path, their own shots. There's no other way to do it than to allow every single individual, no matter what, to call their own shots, to call their own way, but to educate them properly as to who they are and what the ramifications, the implications, the consequences of their actions are to the field, to the common field. And you wouldn't have so many people, running contrary. They would feel their connection to everybody else and their wholeness, and they would not. I don't think that we have to pass laws in order to force everyone to behave themselves. We just have to understand who we are. And the consequences of people misbehaving should be, they should be pulled aside and lovingly rehabilitated back to the tribe. The problem is you can't lovingly pull the misbehaviors aside and take care of them, because then they would be getting more care than a lot of people who aren't misbehaving. We aren't caring for ourselves. We aren't caring for each other. We should be. We somehow, collectively, we should be getting together and trying to figure out how to get every one of us health care, food, and shelter to some rudimentary degree so that people do not live in fear. And then on top of that, help assist one another to, the opportunities for, let's build the systems that we really want to have built. The transportation systems that we want to be in place, not just the stopgap ones until we build the ones we really want. Who are we? Who are we? And what is the whole point of everything? It looks like I have passed an hour. So I'm going to one more time go sneak over and look to see whether anything happened over at my... No one said anything. Oh, wow, what did I look at for a second? I was looking at something for a second. Well, I don't know. Anyway, until tomorrow, I hope that you will join me, either in my now, in your now, in some now in the future, when of course it will be now again. Until then, I wish you well, I bid you peace, and may the source be with you.